let's get right into the thick of it, right? Because AIDS is still one of the most deadly diseases the world has ever seen, right? As I'm talking to you right now, probably about 37 million plus people are infected with HIV AIDS, right? And every year on the planet, right, 1.7 million more people get the disease, and 770,000 of them die from it, right? That's a lot of people, right? And I mean, granted, a lot of people are justifiably freaking out about what's going on with COVID-19, but AIDS will kill more people this year already, right? And so it begs the question, why haven't we done more to stop this disease, right? Well, I think one of the first things that we got to throw out there is in countries like the United States, the disease spreads far less, right? In the United States, there's probably only about 1.1 million people that have the disease. And when you're thinking about that, that's less than 1%. It's like 0.3% of the entire population, right? So there aren't as many people that have AIDS in our society as there are around the world, right? 57% of people who currently have AIDS are in sub-Saharan and Eastern Africa. And then if you're looking at it in general, about 2/3 of all of the people who have HIV AIDS are living in Africa. And that's part of the reason why I think there hasn't been as much of an effort to try to stop it. In America, we've gotten the disease relatively under control, though we haven't stamped it out yet. I think there's been enough of a decrease that people have just kind of started to forget about it as a very serious disease. But there are still 38,000 new cases of HIV AIDS in America each year. So it's really important that we start to figure out how can we end this across the globe. Because a lot of people might be like, but Shufelt, I don't live in sub-Saharan Africa, so why should I care? Borders, y'all, are totally arbitrary. Human beings are suffering needlessly when we can prevent this, right? All of us should be invested in trying to end this disease, because if we get rid of it, then it's not something that we have to worry about for future generations, right? And if we ease up on it, we could see an increase, right? Now here's the deal. I also have been bringing up AIDS because statistically speaking, in America, HIV and AIDS is, if you look at the total amount of people who have it, about 60% of the people who have AIDS are either African Americans or Latinos. When you combine us, we only make up about 30% of the total population, meaning that the disease has spread faster and more persistently in communities of color. So it's really important for us to understand how we can stop this, right? Okay, so there's a lot of different information out there, but I'm going to give you some of the breakdown that I've been able to figure out, right? So number one, the first and most important thing that we can do to stop the spread of AIDS is educate ourselves about it, right? Knowing what the disease is and how it spreads is the first step to potentially stopping it. You've already been working on that, so you're kind of already on your way to understanding step one and locking it down. Step two is trying to prevent the spread from ever happening. As of today, right, when I am making this video, there is no cure for HIV AIDS, right? There is no pill that you could take, no shot that they can give you that would prevent AIDS from continuing to spread in your body once you catch it, right? But here's the deal. You can make choices to prevent yourself from being exposed to it, right? Practicing sex using prophylactics, right? Using different things that prevent you from getting the disease, creating barriers between you and the virus are incredibly important. Having open, honest conversations with your partners, right? And I know that's like, man, that's really awkward, man. I don't want to talk about AIDS with someone. That's going to kill the mood. You know what's going to really kill the mood? Killing the mood, right? When you're dead. Talking about AIDS prevents the spread of AIDS, right? Now there is a new drug that's out there, and it's for a pre-exposure prophylaxis, right? Or PrEP, right? And there's a lot of different new drugs that are out there like Truvada. And basically what this pill does is if you take it on a regular basis, it actually has been shown to prevent the spread of AIDS pretty effectively, right? There's some studies out there saying that it can go all the way up to 99% in terms of stopping the spread of the disease. So if you're taking this pill and you come in contact with someone who has HIV and you're sexually active with them, you have a really good chance of having, if you're taking one of these PrEP pills, from preventing yourself from getting the disease. Now here's the deal, it's not 100%, right? So it doesn't mean that you can take a pill and just forget about it. You really still should be practicing safe sex, and then again, still having these conversations. But there are certain ways that people can stop the spread. But do we all really want to be taking this pill when we can actually swipe it out, right? So this is what the CDC and a lot of other groups say. There's 5 steps once you get the disease that are really important from preventing the spread anymore, right? Step number 1, right, is identifying that you have it, right? Now, again, that sounds like, well, duh, that would make sense for step number 1. But when we look at the data, right, still in America, 1 out of 7 people who have HIV/AIDS don't know about it, which means they could continue to spread the disease, and that's why cases still continue to go on. When we're looking at it globally, right, there are still lots and lots of people who aren't aware, right? It's about on track with the American numbers. About 1 in 5 people don't know that they have the disease, right? Now this is also showing that globally there's less access to testing, right? And that's a really important thing. We need to be making sure that people around the world have not only the information they need to be able to know that they should be getting tested, but 2, having access to those tests to begin with, right? Okay. Step number 2 is getting access to an antiretroviral treatment, or ART, right? This is again something that if we look at it globally, these are the type of drugs that help reduce the disease's ability to replicate itself in your body, right? And there's really 2 main types of ARTs. There's the NRTI, which essentially stops the HIV disease cells, like the virus, from being able to replicate itself from within your body, right? So basically it's kind of shutting it down and not letting it reproduce, right? And then there's also PIs, right, which does something similar to the NRTIs, except for it just does it at a later stage, right? And there's several different kinds of these drugs, and they've proven to be very effective when treated, like when taken regularly, right? Okay, which brings us to step number 3, right? Which is making sure that once you've identified that you have the disease and you get access to these treatments, being able to keep on a daily regimen. Now, this is part of the reason why AIDS was able to spread continuously throughout Africa, right? Throughout Africa, the access to the ARTs that people needed weren't always there. And it used to be a very complex system. You used to have to take your drug on a very regular, regimented schedule, right? And if you didn't have like a smartphone to remind you, like we all do now in the American like society, it was something that would mean that you didn't really have access to the type of tech that you needed to make sure that you were taking the drugs on a regular basis, right? Okay, so once you've got that regular regimen down, and finally the last step is making sure that once you've been able to keep your very standard regimen of taking the ARTs under control, then making sure that the HIV viral count in your bloodstream is so low that it doesn't even show up anymore on tests, right? And continuing the maintenance of this, right? Now, this alone will not stop the disease within your body, but if you get the count so low and you continue to practice safe sex and have conversations with people, we can stop the spread of the disease to new people. The people who already have HIV/AIDS are going to have HIV/AIDS for the foreseeable future, right? They have not created a cure for that. However, we can stop it from spreading to new people, which means we could end the disease if we're on top of it, all right? But the thing that it takes is us. It takes communication, it takes information, right? And that's what I'm gonna get you to start working on in your assignment, okay? All right, there is an assignment with this, so get on it, and then I'll see you in the last assignment, okay? Bye.